At just 7, she watched her house burn, her parents trapped inside, helpless, as flames devoured everything. Alone, starving, forgotten by the world. But today, she found a man, half dead in the bush, discarded like trash. No one stopped, but she did. With trembling hands, she fed him the leftover bread she found, not knowing if he'd live or die. Who is she? Why does she care? Subscribe and get ready, besties. This story will break you. The full story. Harsh, relentless, like the sky itself was angry. Lightning slashed the clouds while thunder grumbled in the distance, echoing over the empty streets of Cana. The town was asleep, but misery didn't sleep, and neither did she. She walked barefoot. Each step against the soaked pavement was a reminder that she didn't belong, at least not to this world. Her hoodie was soaked through, clinging to her thin frame like second skin. Her lips were cracked, her eyes tired, and her stomach had long forgotten what it meant to be full. But she kept walking. She had no destination, no roof to return to. Only the familiar shadows of alleyways and closed-up stores that treated her like a ghost. The rain didn't care who she was. The world didn't care either. And then she saw him. A man, lying awkwardly beside a dumpster, like someone had tossed him out with the garbage. His body was motionless, drenched. His shirt clung to his chest, soaked in both rain and something darker, something red. At first, she thought he was dead. She stopped in her tracks, her eyes widened. Fear kicked in. Should she run? Then he moved, just slightly. A twitch in his fingers, a quiet gasp, a cough so weak it sounded like a whisper fighting for breath. She rushed forward and dropped to her knees beside him. "Sir," she said, her voice shaking. "Can you hear me?" He didn't answer, but his eyes fluttered. He was fading, fast. She looked around. No help. No one cared. Cars drove past without slowing down. People closed their umbrellas and their hearts. And still, she stayed. She didn't have a phone. She didn't have money. But what she had was a will. She hooked her arms under his and began to drag him across the slippery ground. Her knees scraped. Her arms burned. But she didn't stop. Not when he groaned. Not when he went limp. Not even when her feet began to bleed. Just ahead was an old wooden kiosk, abandoned for years, its walls rotting and roof leaning to one side. A place most people wouldn't even store trash. But to her, it was shelter. She forced the door open and pulled him inside. Cardboard, torn newspapers, a shattered window. She placed him down gently and removed her hoodie, the only piece of warmth she owned, and draped it over his chest. Then she sat beside him, holding his trembling hand. He was burning up, breathing shallow, drenched in both rain and pain. She wiped his face with part of her sleeve, whispering soft words she wished someone had said to her once. "You'll be okay. Just don't leave me. Please, don't die." That night, she had no food, no shoes, no home, but she gave him everything. Her warmth, her care, her time, even the last dry corner of her hoodie, because sometimes the ones with the least give the most. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know where he came from, and she definitely didn't know what saving him would cost her or what it would bring. Who is this girl? Why was she alone in the rain that night? And who is this dying man? Sit back, bestie. This isn't just another story. It's pain, it's fate, and it's about to change everything you are thinking. Flashback. Long before the rain, before the alleyways and hunger, she had a name. But even that, the world stole from her. Once, she was someone's daughter. Once, she lived in a house, small but filled with laughter. She used to run to her mother's arms after school, her backpack bouncing, her shoes still new. But joy has a cruel way of vanishing without warning. The fire happened just past midnight, a faulty wire, a scream. Then flames, dancing like demons in the hallway. She made it out, alone. She was only 7 when the flames took everything. Her parents, her childhood, her entire world. After the fire, no family came for her. No uncle, no cousin, not even a neighbor. The government threw her into a shelter where names turned to numbers and children were fed more rules than love. But even there, she didn't last. At 10, she ran. She said she'd rather sleep under the stars than be locked in a place where no one called her by name. And so the streets became her classroom, her bed, her battleground. She learned to fight without fists, to beg without losing her pride, to smile even when her stomach cried louder than her voice. They called her things, ugly names, the street rat, the beggar girl, the thief, but never her name, never her story. And so she stopped telling it. What was the point? No one ever listened past her dirt-covered hands and hollow cheeks. She became invisible until that night. The night the man collapsed in front of her like a sign from the heavens. The night her brokenness met someone else's. Inside the abandoned kiosk, the man still unconscious. Morning came, but hope didn't. The girl hadn't slept. Her eyes stayed fixed on the man whose breath rattled like a failing engine. He was burning up, sweat pouring from his forehead, his lips dry and cracked. He needed help. He needed food. He needed medicine. But she had nothing. No money. No family. Not even a cup to fetch water properly. Still, she stood up, brushed the dirt from her knees, and whispered to him, "Don't die. Please. I'll come back. I promise." And then she ran. She spent the entire day begging, pleading, and hustling. At the market square, she offered to carry bags for strangers. Some gave her coins, most just shoved her away. One woman even slapped her, accusing her of being a pickpocket. She tried again. At the back of the canteen, she washed greasy plates until her fingers wrinkled. The owner gave her a few naira and the leftover pap from a customer who hadn't touched it. "It's cold," the woman said. "You sure you want it?" She nodded quickly, holding the plastic bowl close like treasure. With the little she earned, she dashed to a roadside chemist. "Please," she begged the old man behind the counter. "He's burning. He's shaking. He won't open his eyes. I just need something. Anything." He looked at her like she was dirt. "You again? What do you want me to give without money?" She opened her palm and showed him the crumpled coins. He scoffed. "That can't even buy Panadol." Tears stung her eyes. "Then give me half." And somehow he did. One small sachet of powder. Not much, but maybe enough to bring down the fever. She ran back through the winding alleys, through puddles and broken bottles, barefoot and bruised. Back inside the kiosk, he hadn't moved. His lips were slightly parted, his breathing shallow. He looked worse. She placed her hand on his forehead, still burning. "Please don't do this. Not now." She lifted his head gently and placed it on her lap. Using her fingers, she scooped tiny bits of the pap and blew softly before placing it into his mouth. Some spilled, but some went in. She wiped the rest with her sleeve and whispered, "Eat, please, for me." Then she opened the sachet of medicine, mixed it with a few drops of rainwater she'd collected in a broken bottle, and poured it carefully into his mouth. The whole time, he didn't open his eyes. But he swallowed. Just a little. The hours dragged. She sat there, holding his hand, humming an old lullaby her mother used to sing. Her stomach cried from hunger, but she stayed still. She dared not move in case he slipped away. By nightfall, the fever had gone down, not completely, but enough. His lips moved slightly, a murmur, a breath. "Water," she gasped. He was coming back. She gently raised his head and gave him the remaining drops from the bottle. He drank, slowly, and then silence. No more talking. He lay there again, lost. His eyes didn't open. His voice disappeared. Still, she smiled, because it meant one thing. He was fighting. The third morning came, slow and gray. She was already awake, curled beside him like a guard dog. The floor beneath her was damp. Her clothes hadn't dried since the rain started 2 nights ago, but she didn't complain. She hadn't left his side, not even once, except to hustle and get his drugs. His breathing was stronger now. His chest rose and fell with more rhythm, though he still hadn't spoken another word. She had done her best, fed him, cleaned his face with a torn rag, whispered stories just to keep his soul close. She thought it would be like this forever, until suddenly his fingers moved. His hand twitched again, and then he groaned. Not like before. This time it had depth, struggle, awareness. She bolted upright. "Can you hear me?" His eyes blinked open. First once, then twice. He stared at the ceiling, confused, blinking against the dim light streaming through the cracks in the kiosk roof. He turned his head slowly toward her. She gasped, a smile forming. Relief flooded her face. "You're awake! Oh my God, you're awake!" But his brows furrowed. His eyes darted around the room. Panic started to rise. He tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't obey. "Easy," she said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've been sick for days. You collapsed. I found you." His lips moved, barely a whisper. Where am I?" "You're safe," she replied. "You're in an old kiosk. It's not much, but it kept you alive." He blinked again, more confusion. His hands trembled as he reached for his forehead. His voice came, broken and dry. Who are you?" "I'm nobody," she said with a soft smile, "just someone who didn't want to watch you die." He looked down at himself, torn clothes, wounds still healing, arms scratched. He searched his pockets. Nothing. Not a wallet. Not a name tag. Not even a phone. Then came the pause, a long, terrifying pause. He looked up again, eyes wide now, almost terrified. I don't know who I am." Her smile faded. "What? I can't remember anything." He gripped his head. "I don't know my name. I don't know how I got here. I don't remember." He gasped as the weight of it sank in. Panic replaced confusion. His breath quickened. She knelt beside him and held his hands tightly. "Hey, it's okay. Calm down. You're safe now, okay? I'll help you figure it out. I promise." But the man just stared blankly at the walls around him. Nothing sparked recognition. Not even the sound of his own voice felt familiar. She could see the fear swimming in his eyes, the helplessness. And yet, in that moment, there was something else, a silent bond forming. The way his hand slowly curled around hers. The way he held onto her voice like it was the only thing anchoring him to this world. He was a stranger to himself, and she was the only familiar face in his new beginning. He didn't know her name. She had never been given one, and yet somehow they had found each other. Two nobodies, two abandoned souls, bound by a moment that neither could understand yet. 3 days had passed since he first opened his eyes. He could sit up now. The fever was gone. The shaking had stopped, but the empty space in his mind remained, cold, blank, and unforgiving. He never asked too many questions, only watched her. How she tore leftover bread into pieces before eating, as if making it last longer. How she washed her hands with rainwater and dried them on her clothes. How she smiled at him with kindness no one had ever shown her. Every morning, she would whisper, "I'll be back before sunset," then disappear into the world, returning with just enough to keep them alive. But today was different. That morning, as she bent down to lace her worn-out sandals and fold her hoodie tightly around her waist, she felt a presence behind her. She turned. He was standing, weak but determined. "I want to go with you today." She blinked. "What? I don't want to stay here. I want to help." She studied his face, still pale, still unsure. But his eyes, they held something steady now. And so they walked, side by side, past the muddy street corners, past the market square where people either ignored her or glared. He didn't flinch. He didn't ask where they were going. He just followed. The construction site was loud and harsh, iron rods clanging, dust rising like smoke, men shouting orders over the sound of cement mixers. She went straight to the back, where she usually scrubbed buckets and carried blocks for leftover rice or coins. But this time, she wasn't alone. The man followed her closely. A foreman, chewing a toothpick and wearing boots that looked like they'd survived war, looked up. You bring boyfriend now? He scoffed. He can work, she replied, voice low. He just wants food. The man looked at the stranger, thin, bruised, confused. Can you lift a block? I can try, he answered. And that was enough. They worked together. She fetched water. He lifted sandbags. He slipped once, fell to his knees. They laughed at him. But she helped him up. By afternoon, their clothes were covered in dust. Their hands blistered. Their stomachs empty. But they earned 2 plates of steaming rice and stew, shared under a tree. He looked at the food like it was a feast. You don't have to share with me, he said, still unsure of himself. She smiled. I've eaten worse. They ate in silence. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that comes from 2 people who understand pain the same way. Later that day, as they walked back through the evening breeze, he looked at the streets differently. That night, the old kiosk felt colder than usual. Kamsi placed a steaming cup of pap into his trembling hands. Uncle, she said softly, her tone like that of a child pleading with a bedtime story. Let me tell you another story tonight. Maybe it will help, she began. There was a man, well-dressed like those you see on the billboards. He had a briefcase, shiny shoes, tie like a rope, but he collapsed on the road, blood soaking his white shirt. People passed by, some paused, but no one helped. Maybe he was going for an official meeting or trying to catch a flight. She glanced at him to see if there was any flicker of memory. Suddenly, the man looked up, eyes narrowing. Maybe he had an important meeting, he said, his voice raspy, unsure. Kamsi's heart skipped. Uncle? He blinked fast, searching her face. Or maybe he was late. Maybe someone was waiting for him. Her breath caught. Uncle, wait. Continue. Please, tell me what you see. He clutched his head with both hands, his fingers trembling. There was a car, black, tinted. I stepped out. Someone called me, he groaned. Then pain. I felt pain in my chest. His breathing quickened. Kamsi moved close, her hand on his arm. It's okay. Don't force it. Just let it come slowly. His eyes darted, panic and confusion wrestling inside them. I was standing. Then someone shouted, a sound, loud, then nothing. Silence fell. Kamsi stayed beside him, unsure whether to speak or wait. The fire crackled louder now, and then a tear rolled down the man's cheek. I think Kamsi froze. That sentence echoed through the empty kiosk like a bombshell. Her eyes widened. Uncle, what did you think? Say it out. He looked at her, now no longer as a helpless stranger, but with something else. A glimpse of fire behind those tired eyes. Recognition? Rage? Or memory clawing its way back? I don't know who I am, he whispered, but Kamsi nodded slowly. Gradually, Uncle, you would remember? The next morning. Kamsi left early again, her feet tired, her spirit strong. The man, her uncle, as she'd begun calling him, was getting better each day. Though he still couldn't remember who he was, he smiled more often now. He helped her work. He even laughed once when she tripped over a stone at the site. She had gone out to buy his medicine, a new one the local pharmacy recommended. But as she made her way back, something caught her eye. A newspaper, old, slightly damp, crumpled by the corner of a gutter. She picked it up. Maybe he could read it. Maybe it would help him relax or distract his mind. Anything to ease the burden he carried silently behind his tired smile. When she returned to the kiosk, he was sitting outside, shirtless, using one of her wrappers as a cloth to wipe sweat from his brow. I got the drug, Uncle, she smiled. And this, she held up the folded newspaper, thought it might interest you. He took it gently from her hands. Thank you, Kamsi. He flipped through it slowly. Headline after headline, political promises, robbery cases, fuel subsidy talks, until his fingers froze. His eyes locked onto something, his own face, right there on the middle spread. Missing billionaire, Kennedy Okoye still not found. Family offers reward. His hands trembled. The paper fell from his grip. Tears streamed down his face before a word even left his lips. Uncle? Kamsi whispered, dropping the drug sachet and rushing over. Uncle, what is it? Why are you crying? She followed his eyes and gasped. It was him, the man in the paper, the same face, the same color of suit. He wore the first day. Her hands shot up to her mouth. You are Mr. Kennedy. Kennedy Okoye? He clutched his head, breathing heavily, as if something had unlocked inside him. Visions flashed before his eyes. Board meetings, private jets, flashing cameras, a screaming woman calling his name from a balcony, the screech of tires. He held his head tighter. Kamsi held his hand. Uncle, sir, are you okay? And then, finally, his eyes widened. I remember, he breathed. My name is Kennedy. Kennedy Okoye. I'm not from here. He paused. Then he looked down at the girl holding his hand, dirt under her nails, her wrapper patched with old thread. Eyes that never gave up on him. He whispered, and you saved me. Tears ran down both their cheeks. But this was just the beginning. Because now, the world was looking for Mr. Kennedy Okoye. A moment later, both sat in stunned silence, the newspaper trembling in Kennedy's hand. His face was pale, his breath unsteady, but his voice clear. I remember everything now, he said, barely above a whisper. Kamsi leaned closer, her eyes wide with expectation. I was going for a meeting in another city, an urgent one. My driver was taking me, but the car broke down in the middle of nowhere. We had already been on the road for hours. I didn't want to be late, so I told him to stay back and fix the car while I joined a public transport heading towards the city. He paused, his brows drawing together in a deep frown as he reached for the memories still clouded in fog. I remember the panic, people screaming, the bus driver trying to control the steering, swerving, then everything went black. Kamsi nodded, her voice soft. That's where I found you, lying by the roadside, bleeding and barely breathing. But no other was found around you. I thought you were dead. But something in me said, don't leave him. So I stayed. Kennedy turned to her, eyes filled with gratitude. You saved my life. Kamsi looked down, biting her lip. I just did what I had to do. Then he gently asked, what about you, Kamsi? Who are you really? Her face darkened. She looked away, the corners of her eyes already wet. I don't even know anymore. Everything changed when I was 7. There was a fire, a huge fire. I lost my parents, my home, everything. Since then, I've been moving from street to street, place to place, just trying to survive. She took a deep breath, voice trembling. They called me different names. Dirty girl, street rat, abandoned soul. I stopped telling anyone my real name. I just wanted peace and food. She sobbed, wiping her eyes quickly like someone used to hiding pain. I've been alone for so long. Kennedy's jaw tightened as he watched her. Not anymore. He stood up and walked over to the small phone accessories shop beside the kiosk. His hands trembled as he dialed. When the line picked up, he didn't hesitate. Meet me at the Central Market, beside the old kiosk along Garb Expressway. I am alive. Then he dropped the phone, his chest rising and falling rapidly. Kamsi looked at him, her tears now replaced with wonder. And Kennedy Okoye, the billionaire thought to be dead, stood still in his ragged clothes beside the girl who saved him, ready to reclaim the life he once lost. As the black SUVs cruised through the long, winding driveway, the golden gates of Okoye Manor slowly parted. Every corner of the estate buzzed with anticipation. Staff in polished uniforms and shimmering gowns stood in neat lines. Security guards snapped to attention. The massive front door flung open. Then the cars came to a smooth halt. The moment Kennedy stepped out, a loud cry erupted. Sir! Welcome back, sir! Thank God you're alive. A wave of emotion swept through the crowd as his wife broke through the line, her mascara already smudging with tears. She collapsed into his arms. Kennedy! Oh my God! I thought I'd lost you forever! His 2 little children clung to his trousers. Daddy! Daddy! They cried. Where did you go? We missed you. Then silence. Their young, curious eyes shifted to the small figure behind him. Dusty feet, oversized slippers, and a scarf wrapped around her head. They wrinkled their noses. Who is this dirty girl? The little one asked aloud. A murmur passed through the crowd. Kennedy turned sharply. His voice, calm but firm, silenced the whispers. She's not dirty. He stepped aside, gently pulling Kamsi forward. She is my savior, Gasps broke out. Even his wife blinked in shock. This girl, Kennedy continued, picked me up half dead. She fed me, cleaned my wounds, sat with me every day hoping I'd remember who I was. If it wasn't for her, he paused, his voice thick, I wouldn't be here today. Kamsi looked down, embarrassed, but then he did something no one expected. He turned to his wife and said, "Get the guest room ready." He turned to the staff. "She stays with us. She's family now." Shocked murmurs spread. The children stared wide-eyed. His wife, still stunned, couldn't speak. And Kamsi, her lips trembled, her knees gave way. And for the first time in years, she cried. Not because of pain, but because someone finally saw her. Someone called her family. That same day, Kennedy's wife, Becky, took Kamsi out for shopping. They visited the biggest boutiques in the city. Outfits, shoes, bags, everything a young lady could need. Becky walked beside her like a proud mother, choosing clothes with care, asking for her opinion, and treating her like she mattered. For the first time in a long while, Kamsi felt seen, valued. By the time they returned to the mansion, Kamsi's face was glowing, not from makeup, but from genuine happiness. In the weeks that followed, everything changed for her. She was enrolled in one of the best private schools in the city. A driver dropped her off every morning in a luxury car. She wore uniforms stitched to her size, carried designer backpacks, and was known by a new name, Kamsi Okoye. Yes, Kennedy had legally allowed her to bear his name. But it didn't stop there. She was treated like family, not charity. Kennedy's wife embraced her fully, sometimes even scolding her affectionately like her own child. She sat at the same dining table with everyone, played with Kennedy's children, slept in her own spacious room, and every time she smiled, Kennedy would quietly whisper to himself, "Thank you, God, for letting her find me." Kamsi, the girl who once begged for water on the streets, had become the daughter of a billionaire, not because of luck, but because of love. And the journey was just beginning. Months passed. Kamsi adjusted beautifully into her new life, not just as a billionaire's daughter, but as a symbol of grace and strength. Her teachers at school described her as brilliant, respectful, and humble. Her classmates adored her, even though they knew her story, how she used to hawk pure water on the streets. It didn't matter. What mattered was the way she carried herself. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Kennedy looked around the table, his wife, his children, and now, Kamsi, laughing, eating, living. His eyes welled with tears. He had almost lost everything. But this girl found him, saved him, and gave him a second chance at life. Becky noticed his silence and reached for his hand. "You okay, sweetheart?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "I was just thinking, if this girl hadn't found me in that condition, I wouldn't be sitting here with you all." Becky looked at Kamsi and smiled. "She didn't just find you. She restored you." The atmosphere grew still for a moment, filled with gratitude and quiet reflection. Hello, besties. Life should not be all about us. Sometimes the greatest purpose we can ever fulfill is in the life of someone else. Always be ready to extend a kind hand, because most of the time, the miracle you're praying for is hidden in the little help you can render to another. Kamsi never knew that stopping to help a sick stranger would change her own destiny forever. So, don't hold back your goodness. You never know whose life you're about to save, or how your own life will be changed in return. If this story touched you, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone, and leave us a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you never miss another emotional and inspiring story like this one. See you in the next video, besties.